Ladies and gentlemen, this video is being recorded in the early months of 2026. And just in case you were wondering, I am a human being. I am not an AI. And that's an important thing to call out because AI has gotten extremely powerful. It's become extremely useful, but it's also become extremely intimidating. And in this video, I will be showing you two very famous AIs going head to head in chess. The game correlated with the ultimate degree, the ultimate form of human intelligence, or in this case, AI intelligence. You see, this is the Chatbot Chess Championship. This is the second edition that I've run on this channel, and this is the final. ChatGPT will take on Claude in 2 games. And these games were incredible. Actually, incredible. Like, really high-quality stuff, anime-level protagonist versus antagonist, anti-hero type of stuff. Just sit back, relax, and enjoy yourself. And if this is one of the first chess videos you have ever watched, viewer discretion is advised. These chatbots do all sorts of utterly absurd things, but this was incredible. Really, this was cinema. For the first game, ChatGPT has the black pieces, Claude has the white pieces, and then their second game was like 100 ply. It was 100 moves long. It was incredible. E4 is the first move of the grand finale of the second ever Chatbot Chess Championship, and ChatGPT plays the Sicilian defense, E4, C5, the most combative way to meet White's move, E4, with the king's pawn, knight to F3 by Claude. And now E6. This is a different type of Sicilian. It blocks in the bishop. Normally, D6 is the second most common move, but after the Sicilian, black can choose to move the D pawn, the E pawn, the G pawn, this knight, this pawn, etc. After the move E6, we get D4, pawn takes, and knight to C6, initiating a tension and a staring contest between these horses. If you're uninitiated, horses move like that, 2 and 1, 2 and 1, 1 and 2. They are now staring at each other, and after just 5 moves, we have a real opening on the board. This is called the Taimanov Sicilian defense. The queen goes to C7 in many lines to put pressure on this knight, to win some control of squares on this diagonal, preventing white from developing like this. The C file will be very useful. Black can play bishop to B4 as well, and then hit that knight with the queen when this knight moves. There's a lot of tactical ideas in the position. White develops the bishop. You'll notice white could have also developed the bishop over to G5, but here it solidifies the center. It makes this stronger. You know, you maybe want to go queen D2 behind the bishop and then long castle. We will see. I was blown away at the opening quality in this game. So bishop to E3, A6. This is very normal in these E6 Sicilians, these Taimanov Sicilians, because now nothing can go to B5, not a knight, not a bishop. Nothing can go to B5, creating any sort of danger. After A6, we have bishop to E2. Simple development. You got the knights out, you got the bishops out. And you are maintaining a level of flexibility where you would like to castle, but bishop E2 is normal. Black develops the knight with eyes on the center. Of course, this is still protected. White castles the king here, and black plays bishop to E7. I mean, so far, this looks like a world championship game. These bots suck. If you've been watching my channel for 3-4 years now, thank you, by the way, you know that, like, the first time I ever made a video about ChatGPT, I mean, it was, you know, bad. Really bad and really funny. Like, the first ever game between ChatGPT and Stockfish was unbelievable. I think it has, like, 6 million views on this channel because everybody was sharing it with like, oh my god, these bots are so stupid. And now the games are looking really, really legitimate. Here the move F4 is played. The idea of pawn to F4 is to go pawn to E5 and dislodge this knight, since it can't go here because of the bishop and it can't go into the middle because of this knight. So now black has to play the very well-timed move D6. Black sets up along the 6th rank, very solid, not letting white jump in with E5 or F5 very easily. All very normal. Now white here, Claude plays what's called a prophylactic move. It's a move preparing for the worst. It is a move anticipating danger. It is a move making a defensive resource, king to H1. And the idea of this move is just to get off of this diagonal. You never know when the position's going to blow up, and the king over here is just safer. Also, maybe in the future, you want to move your G-pawn to G5. I've seen this happen as well. So king H1, short castle from ChatGPT, and now queen E1. And queen E1 is genius. And here Claude said, I am preparing a king-side attack, and it is true. Normally, this pawn is on F2. At the beginning of the game, the pawn's on F2. You generally don't go F4. But here, because this is open, in fact, Claude is doing exactly that. I was blown away. I'm like, these things are playing better than anybody watching. And at this very moment, the second that Claude took the eye off the center, ChatGPT struck in the center. It is very difficult to conjure up an attack in chess when you are being counterpunched, you know? And so knight takes d4 comes in. Bishop takes d4 with eyes over here. ChatGPT is about to come under a serious attack. Maybe e5 is coming, all this, going for some sort of checkmate. And it strikes back in the center with the move e5. Just a fantastic, well-timed decision. And now if you take, the bishop is going to have to move, and you will be losing time here. You know, you're going to have to lose time. You're going to have to play something like a bishop to e3 or something. And after bishop to e3, there is no advantage in the position anymore. I mean, black is going to develop the bishop. Black is going to get the rooks into the middle. And this is, yeah, I mean, ChatGPT has done fantastic to get here. It's an excellent match, absolutely deserving of the finals. But unfortunately, or fortunately, for those of you inclined towards entertainment, this series is also full of absolutely ridiculous moves that fly in from all different dimensions of the game. Because here, Claude ate its own knight. It did so well, and then the bishop ate the horse. I mean, all right. Bishop takes c3. Bishop takes c3. That's, and now ChatGPT is completely winning because ChatGPT is no longer equal. It's just up a knight. It goes knight to g4, just bringing the knight over here, looking to maybe jump in and basically put the game away completely. But this is not the end of the drama because here Claude takes the pawn. Now that is a very bad move because after this, you are now down 2 pieces. You did not need to do that. The bishop went here, ate its own knight, and then gave itself up for a pawn. And not only did you give yourself up for a pawn, you are now under mate. So you lost a knight, a bishop, and you're about to hang mate in 1. I mean, how did I just say that this was worthy of a final? What is going on? How did that happen? Well, actually, the knight was never captured, you bozos. The knight went to a different dimension for its lunch break, and now it reappears on the board with knight to d5. And it's mate. And I'm just sitting here as this game is going on wondering, is this really going to be over in like 10 moves? Queen h2 is mate. But in chess, what I always tell people is if you have checkmate in 1 on the board, you already know, you've heard me say this, you got to look for a better move. So rather than checkmating on h2 here, ChatGPT threatens checkmate again. So now the queen will have the backup of the knight and the bishop. It's just really making sure queen h2 is mate. It just really wanted to make sure when it took on h2, it would be mate. The problem is now Claude goes here. And after knight to f4, your diagonal is blocked. Now you are still completely lost with white because you are down a bishop. And obviously you are still under, you are under a massive pressure here with these bishops, and the rook is going to come in as well. But the game takes a really crazy turn in just a couple of moves. You ready for this? Knight to e3, jumping in, threatening the rook. This is a really weird fork because the knight attacks the rook and it attacks a pawn, and after the knight takes the pawn, it's going to be another fork. So the knight is forking into a fork. Forkception. Except ChatGPT missed the queen jump. And suddenly, white is completely back in the game. The queen took the knight. But Levy, it took the knight through the bishop. I know. What do you think, I'm stupid? I can see that. That's the Chatbot Chess Championship. Queen takes e3, ChatGPT loses its knight back, now the game is equal. Now it's game on. ChatGPT was clearly disturbed by this because in this position, ChatGPT played bishop takes f4. I love the mutual disrespect here. Like, Claude jumps through a bishop, so ChatGPT is like, well, then I'm going to jump through my own piece. Except that doesn't do anything. It's not a good move because it's simply just a trade. And now you just have an equal endgame. In fact, it's not even equal. White is just up a pawn. You have the same pieces, and Claude is actually beating ChatGPT. So ChatGPT, after this big trade, goes bishop to e6. I'm thinking, all right, let's buckle down. Let's play an endgame. This is going to be a long game. Bishop e6. Claude plays rook d1. Very good move, centralizing the rook. Only thing is you might be losing this pawn, but that would be like the Bobby Fischer versus Boris Spassky World Championship match, where he did that, and then after pawn to b3, his bishop was trapped, and he had miscalculated. Rook d1 appears, rook d8 is played. Now, obviously, we after rook d8, we get a snap, snap take, and the rook comes back to f1. Now, black can infiltrate on the second rank. In chess, you should play like that. You should try to infiltrate with your rook on the second or the seventh rank. Also, you need to make sure that your king can get off the back rank and won't be back rank checkmated, which is very important because that's about to happen. But now, ChatGPT spots this move. I was really impressed. I was like, wow, it actually remembered that there was a pawn there. And Claude at this point goes a little bananas, like plays rook e1, that doesn't do anything. Claude played rook e1 and said, I'm threatening back rank. And then the bishop went to e6, and Claude took the bishop. The very rare double X-ray vision hop, rook e6. The problem is it's just not a good move, and ChatGPT takes. Now ChatGPT is completely winning. So Claude breaks the rules and still is going to lose. And now Claude plays a really powerful move. You might want to look away. This might blind you. This is a very, very powerful response. b3. Rook d2. And now for one final trick. Are you ready for this? Claude in this position plays rook e2. Plays rook e2. Rook e2, sneakily transforming its bishop into a rook, because it probably thought, well, ChatGPT is going to take this pawn, and if I go here, there's mate. So it changes the bishop to a rook, just in case ChatGPT is caught lagging. ChatGPT takes. And after e5, rook e1 mate. Not much you can say. Game 1 goes to ChatGPT with the black pieces. A tough back and forth game, Claude demonstrating poor endgame technique ultimately, and succumbing to the pressure. And that means now we flip the two of these, and for the second game, ChatGPT will be with the white pieces. And, you know, losing the first game of a match with black is really, you know, it's generally bad. In something like a world championship. When you are talking about AIs, it's a little bit different because clearly they are totally capable of beating one another regardless of what color that they're playing. Folks, this game was amazing. I could not believe what I was watching. The commentary was riveting. The moves were absurd. Just so much fun, all right? Just an incredible battle. Lock in. ChatGPT with the white pieces goes d4 on its own, completely prompted. Completely unprompted. Completely unprompted. Says d4. I'm going to go with a solid choice. Now we have d5 from Claude. We have c4, the Queen's Gambit, e6, Queen's Gambit declined. All normal. Been played before, been seen before. Knight to c3, applying pressure in the style of the Queen's Gambit. Knight to f6, responding. Typical way in the Queen's Gambit. Now here you generally take, and then you move this bishop out. That's the exchange variation. There's also this variation and this variation. There's the various g3 type of Catalan positions. We do get bishop to g5, bishop to e7 blocking the pin. ChatGPT plays very solidly with e3 looking for knight f3 and bishop d3. Super classical development. Castles, knight f3. And at this point, I thought this game was going to be really fast. I thought the second game was just going to be finished. Thought it was going to be done. Because here, Claude passed back the move. I'm not even joking. Claude played d5. And I was like, oh, well, it's just going to quit. It doesn't want to play anymore. It's basically throwing a tantrum. It's like the little, the little kid like, I don't want to play anymore. I thought that's where we were heading. I thought, all right, well, ChatGPT is going to win. I mean, we've known for a while it's quite good at chess, but I thought that maybe there would be some hope or something like that, or there would be a way to fight back, or I thought it would try to go for a comeback. Okay, so win d5, rook c1. Now watch as the two of these AIs play a completely normal game of chess. After rook c1, we have c6. This completes the pyramid pawn structure, and against the queen's pawn, the pyramid pawn structure is very good. It's a little bit passive because your pieces are stuck, but then you rely on pawn captures and pawn breaks, which will be covered in my second book, How to Win at Chess Next Level. If you're watching this before October in 2026, it's not out yet, but if you're watching this after, it is out. How to play with your pawns and your pieces. Pawn breaks in the position, pawn captures, trades, pawn space, all that type of stuff. All that, is going to be uncovered in this game. Queen c2, this is correct. Queen c2 targeting this pawn and targeting the e4 square is 100% correct. Knight bd7, bishop d3, and now Claude plays a very intelligent move, a move that you only play when the light-squared bishop moves and the queen's gambit decline, and that is taking this pawn, because now white has to waste time. White went here, and now has to go here, and now black will generally strike with b5, and then open up the position like this on the queen side. Okay, we don't get exactly that, we get knight to d5, that's still an extremely impressive move, and at this point, ChatGPT plays a pawn move that blew me away. When the knight goes to d5, the first thing you notice is, I can take this, but it's protected. Do you take it or do you not take it? You don't know, because chess is hard. But the second thing that you should see is that the bishops now stare at each other, which is a very important thing in chess called continuity, how moves affect other pieces' vision, right? And how the board progresses through time. So here, of course, you just take. I mean, otherwise you're going to get taken. ChatGPT plays h4! I couldn't believe this move! And this is not me just being theatrical. I yell and whatever, but h4 is brilliant because you haven't castled yet. And since you haven't castled, should this trade happen, white immediately gets a monstrous attack and doesn't even have to move the king. So when h4 happened, I actually was a little bit spooked. Like, I could not believe that this move had been played, because also the knight can get to g5 now. Yeah, h4 is just completely brilliant. Knight takes c3 is not a very good move by black. Here, probably with white, you should take with the pawn, because what it does is it just makes your center so strong. And when your center is really strong, like your core, you know? Your core, like, you might not see it on me, because I have a belly, because that's just my body type. But my core is strong, like planking, you know, leg lifts and so on. You gotta have a strong core, because that affects your back, that affects your hips, that affects your glutes, that affects your, you know, your motion and everything. And that's why b takes c3 is the best move. I wouldn't go queen takes c3. I don't think queen takes c3 is the best move, but that is the move that is played here. And now black plays knight f6. Black is slowly trying to get all of the pieces out, all of the pieces playing. Here I don't love ChatGPT's move, but I think it's like, all right, I'm just gonna castle, and then we're gonna figure out the rest of the business. And black plays b6, trying to get the bishop out here onto the diagonal. Again, just a really, really high quality game. They're playing better than like 90% of you, and that's not even an insult. I was actually really, really blown away by this. Now we have bishop to d3, lining up on the diagonal of this pawn and attacking this pawn with the queen. Black, of course, responds bishop to b7. And here, ChatGPT plays queen c2, lining up the diagonal once again, threatening to take the knight and threatening this pawn. And Claude played h6. h6! It got out of the way, and it actually threatened the bishop. And ChatGPT backed up. It did not want to trade the bishops anymore. So as it backed up, Claude struck the center, defended pawn, and look at this. And the evaluation is just equal. The position's equal. Black is equalized from an opening that is pretty passive, and pawn structure that was pretty bad. And so we have d takes c5, b takes c5, rook f d1. And this is a beautiful position for white now, right? Like this is looking really, really good. Unfortunately, folks, from this point forward, the game does not have such a high quality anymore. Up until this point, it was really fantastic. But it does have a high quality in terms of entertainment. And that is really ultimately what we are here for. I would like to show you the rest of the game. Sit back and just enjoy yourselves, because here black plays queen c7. And Claude goes back to playing like some of you. Just absolutely walking the queen into a capture. The worst move on the board. Literally. Like, black in this position has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 moves. 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37 moves. 1 in 37. This move loses the queen for nothing. You could have at least hung the queen to the bishop or given the queen away like this. Queen c7 is literally the worst move on the board. And ChatGPT, of course, goes here. And explains this move by saying, I'm keeping the bishop pair and maintaining kingside pressure. But this is not the end of the story. It's about to get a whole lot better. Rook f d8, rehanging the queen. ChatGPT here plays a move that is brilliant and fascinating. It plays bishop b1, hopping backwards. It doesn't hop forward over pieces to take pieces. It hops backwards because this battery, which is when two pieces work together on a straight line, left to right, up and down, or diagonal like this battery is not very powerful because the bishop's not actually a major threat. But this battery is extremely powerful because all you have to do is remove this knight like this or like this, and queen h7 is going to be checkmate. So this is completely genius, playing bishop to b1, except bishop e4 comes in, defended by the knight and creating a counterattack to the queen. I could not fathom that Claude had found the move bishop to e4, and ChatGPT goes here. It blunders its own queen. And after it blunders its own queen, probably the rooks will be traded, and the bishop no longer sees the queen because the knight moved in front. Oh my goodness, and Claude played this. It skipped the queen completely and went straight to taking the bishop. It only wanted to kill its own counterpart. It just wanted no light squared bishop for white. It missed the queen completely. I was devastated. I was like, Claude, you were so close. And then ChatGPT responded, queen takes b1 to maintain vision over here, and the rooks are very powerful, and white's position is so dominant because there's problems with this queen, and the pawn is weak, and there's just all sorts of tactical threats anywhere that the queen moves. So queen b1, knight d5 comes in, and ChatGPT makes a mistake again. It goes knight d7. Knight d7 does absolutely nothing. Well, it does, like the bishop sees the queen, but the queen could just take. And frankly, even if the rook if the rook took, you wouldn't see this. And that's exactly what happens. Rook takes d7. And ChatGPT plays this move. How did it see it now? And it says picking up the queen. How did it see it now? Was it just taking it easy? It just didn't want to take the queen? It felt like giving its opponent a chance? How did it spot that now? After everything that just happened, it was like, wait a minute, there's a queen on c7. Boop. And now, sadly, that is the end, because here Claude went rook d8. It completely malfunctions. It doesn't take the bishop, and after bishop takes d8, rook takes d8, it's just over. I mean, you can't beat two rooks and a queen with a rook, a knight, and a bishop. I mean, the rook, a knight, and a bishop, they're admirable pieces. But they can't get it done in this case. Or can they? Or can they? Because here, after rook d8, we got rook takes c5. This absolute lunatic, Mr. GPT, just blundered a rook in one move. I mean, that was a horrendous move. This was terrible. I mean, of course, white is still completely winning. You have a queen. You have the dragon of all dragons. It's just going to fly into the position. Also, you can play e4. And the knight is hanging and can't move because you would be taking the rook. Except Claude played knight to b4, which is, why would you play knight to b4? That move doesn't do anything. And now you can just trade the rook. And here with white, you trade the rook, you go to the back rank. Here with white, you don't need to take the rest of the pieces. Go put the rook and the queen together and just bulldoze the king. But after this, we have a3. a3. What is a3? a3 is crazy. Now the knight goes, okay, just take the knight. No. Instead, at this point, ChatGPT realizes that it was going to lose its rook and goes rook c7, attacking the bishop, attacking the pawn, and threatening the knight. Okay, obviously the game is over. Claude goes knight b2. Now in this position, we were so close. I cannot stress this enough. We were so close to ChatGPT losing because it didn't take the rook, and it didn't take this, and it took the knight. And Claude realized it has rook takes d1. Do you understand how lucky ChatGPT was? If it had never gone h4 in the opening, it would have been back rank mated. ChatGPT would have blundered a back rank checkmate up a full queen and a rook. But now it has this, and Claude can get bishop d6 on the board with a fork. And if this happens, it's still losing. But white has a lot more work to do. Oh, but the comeback was short-lived because, of course, we got rook d2. And, yeah, rook d2 is, of course, terrible because you just take the rook. King g3 was played. When ChatGPT said king g3, a part of me just, like, tightened up. And I waited for Claude's response. King g3, total chaos. And Claude took. Claude was winning. But then ChatGPT went here. And we have an endgame. Rook e7 on the board. It's an endgame. Rook and pawns. Now, still, it is probably white who is pressuring. White has a much more active rook, right? And the king is out. And in the endgames, this is important. If you can win this pawn, it would be good. Black should, of course, save the pawn. But it's these bots playing some endgame. It's probably not going to happen. In fact, chaos begins basically immediately, because as we enter the endgame phase, Claude goes rook b1. I cannot explain that move. It simply hangs a pawn. Except instead of taking its pawn after rook to b1, ChatGPT went rook to d7. I cannot explain this move. Now we have rook to g1. I further cannot explain this move either. There is nothing at all in this position, and if anything, you have deactivated your rook, which will now take 2 moves to get back into the game. It's really unfortunate because rook takes a7 was spotted, right? Rook takes a7 was found, and now ChatGPT is going to realize that it can start moving its pawns up the board. Because I'm also giving both of them updates, like you have rooks and pawns, you shouldn't move, you don't have any knights or bishops, don't do anything stupid. But here, Claude, using its sophisticated technology and modern-day AI capabilities, books a private jet for the rook on g1. It doesn't fly commercial, it doesn't go to the local airport, and it flies all the way to b8 and arrives. Arrives bright and early, freshens up, takes a little shower, and has arrived on b8 ready for the endgame. Unfortunately, it arrives drunk, because after pawn to a4, Claude goes rook a8, and I was like, that's insane. How can you do this to me? How you did such a good job to get to this point, except ChatGPT goes rook b7. Oh! I was like, oh, why did it go rook b7? Why did it go rook b7? And then Claude took the pawn. Claude took the pawn, and now we have rook and 4, rook and 4. This is just a dead draw. But you can lose this and win this with both colors. Like, it's totally possible. With white, you can overextend, and with black, you could accidentally make your position like Swiss cheese. Right now, every important square in the position for black, all of these, are covered, so the king cannot just walk in. But if you make your position like Swiss cheese, and the white king walks in, and then you can get a checkmate, like, you have to be a little bit careful. For master players, this is a drop. So we have f4. Let's see. Remember, though, black has to win. That's the thing. If you need to win this game if you're Claude to force a tiebreak. So we have f4, rook a3 attacking the pawn over here, king to f3, and now we buy another private jet booking for this rook, and it flies back to f8. And I think Claude is basically just like, I won't lose. I don't know about win, but it's definitely not going to lose. King to e4, ChatGPT understands it needs to make some king moves. Unfortunately, it goes f5. f5 is just a bad move, because after f5, pawn takes f5, king takes f5, this is just a free pawn, and now black is going to be a pawn up in the endgame. I'm thinking this is it. This is the comeback. This is what we have been waiting for this entire time. Instead, we get rook to f8, and we get e4, and now, folks, the final move of this beautiful competition. Rook to e5 check. And rook to e5 check. Unfortunately, the rook was zipping around g1 to b8, a3 to f8. But this is the end. You will not win this position with black, right? Surely not. You might. And Claude is about to try. Claude goes f4. Claude tries to sneak a pawn past the defenses. ChatGPT takes. There are 2 pawns remaining. Once both these pawns get captured, it's over, because it's a draw by minimum. There's no way Claude can win. So, king takes on f4, right? Now we get g5 check. King g4, h5 check. All you gotta do is take these pawns. It's over. Instead, we have king f5. Oh, okay. After king f5, we have g4. We have e5. Claude activates one final trick, just like in the previous game, h4. Can Claude actually sneak a pawn through to get a queen? e6, h3, e7, h2. It's never going to get there, because the pawn made it to the end of the board, the pawn promoted to a queen, and ChatGPT checkmated Claude and wins the 2026 Chatbot Chess Championship with a final score of 2-0. But these games were sensational. Once again, you have a bracket. I will show it to all of you. This was our road, taking down Gemini. Copilot took down Grok. That set up the semifinal. Claude beat Snap. DeepSeek beat Meta. Claude beat DeepSeek. And in the final, we could put 2-0, but it doesn't really matter. The winner is ChatGPT. An incredible final. Absolutely worthy games. I could not be happier with how it turned out. It required minimal intervention from me. Sometimes these bots just show up and they are not ready to have a good day. But today was a good day. These games were awesome. I have a lot more content on this channel of ChatGPT playing chess and playing against Stockfish and playing against all these different bots on chess.com. And if you want to learn how to play real chess, I got plenty of series of that too, in case you didn't know. But if you are a recurring viewer, then I appreciate you being here. I appreciate you watching as always. And you know where to find me. I got books, I got courses, I got all sorts of stuff. And I will see you all in the next video. Get out of here.